Hey man, you wanna play some video games?
Why? I wanna go to the moon!
Hello guys, my name is LowLandLions.maDe, and today I'll be talking about my Druid deck. First I'll go over 3 points which I really like about this deck, and after that I'll actually give 2 general tips, one for the little bit higher ranked players and one for the lower ranked players. So let's go over the deck first. The first thing I really like about this deck is that it's extremely flexible. It has cards like Wrath, like Keeper of the Grove, like Druid of the Claw, the Ancient of Lore, which actually give you options. And as you can see, generally one option is a more aggressive option, and the other one is a more defensive option, which is very useful because against more control decks you can actually play a very aggressive playstyle, get your opponent low, and then utilize the double Force of Nature combo that's in the deck to finish them off. You can also play a more defensive playstyle, use the Force of Nature and the Savage Sword to clear boards against, for example, Zulaks, and you can use the Druid of the Claw to taunt the Ancient of Lore to heal. Another thing I really like about this deck is that it has very few dead cards. It doesn't have the Big Game Hunter, it doesn't have the Black Knight, which you actually see in a lot of Druid decks nowadays, which actually makes your hand generally a lot better, because you basically have something to play on every turn. And to really smooth out that mana curve, there's also the double Wild Growth and the double Innervate in the deck. So for example, if you have a starting hand of Innervate, Harvest Column, Azure Drake and Argent Commander, you can actually smooth that mana curve out with the Innervate. You can play the Harvest Column on turn 3, then on turn 4 you can Innervate the Argent Commander, and then you can go for the Azure Drake on turn 5, so you can really smooth out that mana curve, which is really nice. Another thing is that it's really straightforward to play generally. It doesn't have a lot of the really tough decisions, it just has a lot of really strong, solid minions to just throw on the board and let your opponent figure out how to deal with it. So that's basically the general of this deck. The things you want to keep in your starting hand are generally Wild Growths, Innervates, Harvest Columns and Yeti depending on the matchup. So let's go to the general tips. One tip I really have for the higher ranked players is to actually watch the mulligan of your opponent. You want to look, for example, against Warlocks, which in the higher ranks basically only play 2 decks, which is the Zulak, the really aggressive one, and the Handlock, which is a really defensive one. And you can usually determine what kind of deck they're playing just by looking at what cards they mulligan. If they mulligan a lot of cards, it's generally Handlock, because if they play Handlock versus Druid, they usually only want to keep their Mountain Giants and the Twilight Trick, so it's less chance that they get those in their starting hand, therefore they mulligan more cards. And if they keep, for example, 2 out of 3 cards, you can almost guarantee that it's a Zulak. And you can keep cards like Swipe, like Wrath in your starting hand to deal with the aggressive early game. Then to the tip for the lower ranked players is to really take your time every turn. Make sure you make as little mistakes as possible to get to the higher ranks. And don't rush your turns. If you rush your turns, you overlook possibly the better play by just, for example, playing a Yeti on turn 4 while playing, for example, a Wrath and a Sun Fury Protector might actually be better. But just because you have 4 mana and you have a Yeti in your hand, you just throw down the Yeti, which is not always the right call. So that was the video for today. I hope you learned something, and I hope some of you actually like the deck, and good luck leathering.
When the dirtbags come looking for you, get pure precision with a true 8200 DPI Pro Aim laser sensor. Get pure speed with a 32-bit Turbo Core V2 processor. Get pure command power with the Easy Shift button duplicator. Get pure atmosphere with a 16.8 million color lighting system. Before you get your hands dirty, get pure. Rocket Cone Pure Core Performance Gaming Mouse.